beautiful wife in the kitchen there. Kim is in.
Yes.
Brought food. And we're glad to be here. So, the first thing on the agenda was the minutes. That was sent out after the last meeting, what we discussed last time. If you have any questions, comments, want to add to that, you can let me know. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that. Some updates. 5013C. Hope.
We met with the board at its January meeting and presented our vision for a 501c3 entity, with the goal of having a 501c3 to allow us to be able to do fundraising in order for us to receive grants to do the work that we do, because it is not just lunches and speeches, but there's a lot of work, a lot of equipment, material that we need in order to be the classy and to have the impact that we would like to have, and to honor the legacy that we are actually preserving. So we presented our vision to the board, and they approved the formation of a 501c3.
Wow.
So we are now at the stage where Benny and the writers will initiate that process.
Any of the writers?
Whoever the writers of the you have to go through a process. So we don't have it yet.
Right.
We have the approval, we have the blessing
Of the board.
to move forward.
And according to a letter we got from Pastor Jones, the next step is to approach the conference office, and I think they're going to try to use the 501(c)(3) that the school has. I know that when we met with what was the guy's name from the National Museum in New York?
Okay, Dr. Teddy Reeves.
Teddy Reeves, yeah.
From the Smithsonian.
From the Smithsonian. Yeah, he suggested that we tie in with the school. He said that educational piece of it makes it easier, I guess,
Yes.
for fundraising, and it looks good. So we'll wait to hear what the next step is from the pastor. Do we need to meet with the conference office to get this thing set up, and how long that would take? So we will have to draw up typical papers. We're going to need. We already have our bylaws and everything. We may have to change some of those things to accommodate what the conference and the school would want us to do, but we'll keep you informed about that as we go through that process.
Yes, I think we'll probably need to make the school more prominent in our documents. I reviewed those bylaws, and
Right.
as a triangulation of the hospital, church, and school. Dr. Teddy Reeves, we met with Dr. Teddy Reeves, director of the Smithsonian's Division of
For religion.
Religion and Culture. And he shared with us that it is much easier, it is more palatable to donors to give to an educational entity. They do not give to religious organizations as much. So it is best for us to complete this work if we use our keep our base within our school, as we're trying to, in essence, educate as we are preserving that history.
And I will express, my only concern is that as this core group, that we maintain control. That even with the school, with the church, and the conference office, that we may control with the people we have in this room. We're not giving this organization over to another organization. We want to work with them, but we will maintain control, because sometimes when you start expanding and you bring in other new people, it's easy to lose control.
Or the vision.
Or the vision for what we're trying to do. So we want to be clear about that we won't make any decision about those kind of things unless we bring it back to this group, and we make a decision as a group as to make sure that we are aligned in what we're trying to do with these organizations. Yes.
So, is anybody working on an MOU?
We have not gotten that to that point yet, memorandum of understanding. No, we've not got to that point yet, but we would have to put together, as she mentioned, MOU, a memorandum of understanding that will outline what each side's responsibilities are, what your duties and obligations are, who's responsible for it, and all that kind of. It's an official legal document that once you sign it, it does have legitimacy, and it will will outline or put in writing contractually what each group is responsible for and how it should work. So we would not go forward without an MOU.
Okay.
Right. Other questions, comments?
Gazetta, have you done an MOU before and able to assist us as we move into that next phase?
Kinda, sorta. I
Okay.
work with the Oakwood Alumni Association, and we've done some things in that area.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So just keep that in mind. Keep these things in your prayers as we move forward, because this is new ground for us, and we don't want to make any mistakes and go back fixing things. We'd rather know what we're doing going in. We have a lot of expertise in this room, and we ask you people to just make suggestions. Nobody here knows it all, so we want to work as a collaborative team. We had Heritage Month back in November. Didn't go as well as we thought it was going to go. I want to compliment Michael and David and Andrea and Will, as well as Jackson. They sat up in the conference, in the fellowship hall, and we had all these machines set up to scan stuff. And
Mr. Drake also is too.
who? Oh, that's right, Mr. Drake. That's right, also, Mr. Drake. To scan stuff. And I don't believe, how many pictures did we scan, people?
We got Adrian donated a lot of photos, but maybe one outside of the photo shaking.
So obviously it did not reach our expectations, but what we did learn was that the personal contact with people works better than making a general announcement, asking people to bring stuff in. Because of the announcement we made up front, some people came up to us and we approached people, we passed out our little leaflets, and they did have things that they wanted to donate, but they weren't going to bring them to church, so we may have to go out and reach out to people. I think we were able to
I
talk
would
to Bernard Slusher.
say on the artifact side,
Yeah.
outside of the photography
Mhm.
side and the scanning, I think we did fairly well.
Mhm.
One of the things that Dr. Reeves from the Smithsonian had said that they might be interested in was actually even a brick or a door from the old church. And I got a little crate of bricks through that month, courtesy of Xavier Butler. Elder Butler had collected or was able to secure some bricks, and Xavier was more than happy to pass those on to us to be preserved. It's really interesting how people gravitated to the things that we had. Paula brought a number of things. The things that I got from courtesy of the Lightfords, the stained glass with it being bent from the fire was absolutely perfect. Where I am now is actually trying to find the best way, one, preserve, secure, and display these things, and writing the scripts that will go with what we're seeing. One of what I think is one of the finest or complete collection that I have on loan is that of Sister Heather Dixon. To hold in my hand, so scary, to hold in my hand a Nightingale lamp that is older than I am.
From her graduation.
From her graduation in 1960.
Yes. It's amazing.
It's probably the only lamp that's left. Because the other nurses told me it was fragile when we got it and we ain't have it no more. But it wasn't just the lamp. I have her cap. I have her license. I have her graduation certificate. It is a complete set. It is just, right now I'm telling you and I'm like, oh, I got goosebumps. Just thinking about the history that I have. And it's like scary, Right now I have it in a case And I have it up on a shelf. I'm like, if anybody comes here, it can't be at a level where a kid could reach.
Right.
And I still have do not touch, like no cleaners. Please don't even try to dust it, nothing. It's just, it's really precious, and I need to get it in a place quickly and safely.
And we also
Our
spoke with Bernard Slusher because we were asking.
that's another one.
We were asking people to donate not just pictures and items. So we're going to be able to get one of the uniforms that Betty and Calvin used to wear.
I have the uniform.
We got the uniform.
Oh, wow.
I have
Wow.
Brother Slusher's Pathfinder
Oh,
uniform.
my.
I will also have on loan one of Pastor Butler's robes.
Right. Right.
Xavier has all of them, and he's asked which one I want. At first I said the white, but I think it's the blue. Why? Because it's almost like I can authenticate the blue, because I have a picture of him in front of the church
That's perfect.
in the robe,
Yeah,
in that robe.
and
So-
that was kind of like the opening Sabbath or
Yeah.
something like that.
I have the
Maybe
church
that.
program, which was the last program when Pastor Butler gave his last sermon, and the next week was going to be Pastor Stafford. In that one church bulletin, we also had the funeral arrangements for
Sister Buckman.
Sister Buckman.
Oh.
And I remember when I had this out, and Morris, what's his first name?
Ronald.
Ronald. When Ronald saw his name on the thing, he's like, he had done prayer that day, and he's like, hold on, I've been doing this deaconing thing a while here.
He was very
And when people saw themselves in it, very good. We have quite a bit of music. Paula worked with like Lynn Ross and the other to get us like the brothers. So all of that we're trying to pull together for you. It is good. Of course, we need storage right now. We need storage and display. I don't like storage. I really want it to have an impact. People really were engaged with that. So while we might not have gotten a lot of pictures,
Right.
I guarantee you the one-on-one made all the difference. Because, for example, when I saw Xavier, I had to say, he didn't know what. What do you have? I said, come on, let me show you what I have and what I think. And when I told him we were looking, I'm like, anybody has a brick?
Mm-hmm.
And then he came and he met me at Hillcrest and gave me a little soda crate. And with all these gloves, like, I'm more than happy to give you these. And then I got another brick.
From
So-
Benita.
Bonita,
From the hospital.
from the hospital.
The
So we
original
now,
hospital.
right, I mean, like the bricks from the church, you know how bricks look now where they have holes? Those bricks don't have any.
Oh, wow.
They're not, back in the day, they didn't have those holes. And Bonita's birth certificate, she was the second baby. And there's just so much.
Right.
So anyway, let's move on.
So we did meet some of our goals. We set as the number of items and whatnot, but we did pull in a trove of treasures. And we made a lot of personal contact with people, and we will be following up with these people one-on-one, and they've agreed to loan us things. We've actually asked some people too. In the case of Xavier, I said, well, what happens, I don't want to talk about this to make it be morbid, what happens when you pass? Can you will this stuff to the Historical Society?
He hadn't thought about it.
Yeah, he hadn't thought about it. He's starting. So these are the kind of things we need to do going forward, because when these items, when people pass away and nothing is done with, those things get thrown away.
That's right.
They get thrown away. So this is where we are, and we plan to have other heritage months in the future, but we'll be a bit more specific in how we do those and how we manage that process.
I think that personal thing is the key. Just last night, I was talking to Carl Ward about this, and Carl said, no, yeah, I have things from his, father, mother, and father. It's just I hadn't really talked to him, and I told him yesterday we were having dinner, and I said, the historical society. He said, oh, well, I've got this, that, and the other. So I think it's
Wonderful.
that one-on-one thing.
Okay, one thing is that we found out what
Work
was
way better.
Way better. Way
Direct to the person. I went to Jimmy Pitt's storage shed, and just random. I got a button, and it said, "Ask me about Riverside." It was like those campaign buttons.
Mhm.
I was like, this is just So
I
pictures.
cannot like that.
It's
I
like,
really
ask
like
me
that
about
too.
Riverside. Apparently they had a campaign from the hospital,
Mhm.
and you know, he was the last maintenance manager.
Yes, right.
And I was able to get some of their songbooks that the patients sang from and whatever. So there are some nice things. I shouldn't say.
Right.
There are some historical artifacts that are just really rich with history, guys. And I'm telling you these things so you have an idea of what, because sometimes you really have to engage somebody and give them an idea of what they could offer, what they may have, because sometimes they have no idea that what they have is of such value.
Okay. Moving on, Throwback Sabbath is coming up. This is, Black History Month, and typically we take one of the Sabbaths and do something with that. This year, they're having Throwback Sabbath, the last Sabbath in the month, and I was speaking with Corey Bean about us participating in that program, and he would like to interview someone from our group about what we're doing. And are we still going to try to set up a display out front that Sabbath also for some of the items that we have, or not?
We want another one, another display. Do you think? What do you think, guys? Would it be?
We should, I think we should do that for that, especially for that day.
For that day, yeah, just for that day. And what we want to do with that is combine that with our. Corey had a good idea. We're talking about celebrating the 80th anniversary of Riverside Church in 2025. And we want to do it sometime in the fall of the year, September, October timeframe. So he suggested us having a small, like a 79th anniversary celebration pre the 80th, pre the big one.
Say that again.
Huh?
I didn't say that.
He suggested that we have some kind of celebration in the fall of this year, a year before we have the big one for the 80th, and he wanted like a 79th anniversary thing. It's like setting the table for when we have the one in 2025. And he thought at this presentation for Throwback Sabbath would be a good time to kind of announce that and talk about some things that we're going to be doing over the next few months. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay,
Sounds good.
okay.
And Sharon just suggested an idea. Just like how I had this button, ask me about Riverside, we probably need some buttons for us that say, ask me about the Historical Society. Or ask me about Riverside's history.
Okay.
You know?
It's still Riverside.
Oh yeah, Riverside's
So
history.
let's
So
ask me
like,
about
but
Riverside.
it only have one original authentic button.
We can
Everything
have
else
some
would be
more
now
men,
new.
Do we have an online presence for social media? Because right now, at this point, trying to get people that are not constituents of our church, but that work in Riverside, I think we might gather some interest if we're able to be out on social media or wherever else. So.
We currently do not have an online presence. I spoke with, is it Jerica? Jerica about the website, because we had approached the church in October asking about could we update our website, could we have, because there's a Riverside Historical Society section on the website, but we haven't been able to update or anything. She said we can submit things through you that you edit before they get it, and they will have it put up there. We need to make changes.
Paul.
Well, I
What's the
already
best way
submitted
to-
something, when are they gonna make those?
Oh, they have put it
But Paula, they did do the one line, the bottom where you updated like who's the new pastor now. You talked about the history of the church after the
A couple
burning.
things are different on it.
Yeah,
Well-
there's a little bit of update on it for sure.
Well, what I would like to suggest is, because this is not something we can actually solve here, that we have a small group, maybe 2 or 3 people of a little small committee to work on that, to work on social media. Bev, are you interested in
No,
doing
I'm not a
that?
social media person, that's why I
Yeah, okay,
asked.
yeah, so we need to, and we have these people, somebody's pointing to you. Okay,
What's the best way to get the word out to people who may just see it?
right, right.
Hello, excuse me,
Yes, ma'am.
Sharon has a
You
question.
say social media, that's a big umbrella.
That's a big umbrella.
Are you talking about social media, or are you talking about certain different elements within social media?
Well, what I would like to
Specific
do.
is our
Yeah.
objective is,
Right.
there's a lot of people who worked at Riverside over the years. Now, many of those have passed way, but their family and relatives who know of them. Well, the question is, what is the best way just to sort of send something out there that will allow people who happen to be, I guess, surfing or whatever they call it,
Surfing
look
the
at
web.
look at the social media and say, oh,
So you're
well,
talking
yeah,
about a
I used to
website.
work for them, and we've got this. So, I don't know.
I think
what
he's
the
talking
best
about
way-
something
how
that's
to do
more,
that.
it's more inclusive, and again, to have that discussion today, we'd be just talking about a whole bunch of things, but if we have some people who have some experience in the area, can bring us back a proposal. This is what you need to do, because most of the time you're looking at different demographics, I mean, I can't get the word out, demographics. And so you wanna have your social media set up where you hit all of these different ones, cause he's talking about a group of older people, but we also wanna reach the younger generation also, and those in
That's
between.
People who know the old.
Right, who know that stuff, so I
Actually,
think we need a
all
proposal.
generations really been.
Right.
Which is what he's saying, but it
But
might
you
be
can't
a
have one
different
program.
platform
Right.
for different
Right.
For
individuals.
example, right now, it's mainly older people on Facebook.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
That's where I am. And I'm so proud to be there.
That's why the young people got off of Facebook.
Because older folks were coming on Facebook, so they went to.
But you know what? I praise the Lord for
Instagram.
Facebook.
Yeah.
The majority of young people, I mean, obviously TikTok, but beyond that, Instagram is the biggest one right now.
Okay.
That's right.
So what I'd like to present today is, or ask today, that we get a group of people that would involve some of the younger people with some of us older crazy people too, to sit down and bring us back what that would look like across the groups, because we could not fix that here today.
Right.
We don't have enough information. I know I don't.
Yeah.
Do we have any volunteers before I start just assigning people?
For what?
Dwayne,
Oh, Dwayne volunteer. Good.
he'll be the
He's the
Facebook
old
rep.
person.
He's a Facebook rep.
Okay.
Plan to be the old person.
Dwayne Hamilton is the face. He's the old person rep.
Facebook rep. And oh my goodness, stop it.
Yeah, we left MySpace to go to Facebook.
Jasmine is going to be on that group also. I understand she's a whiz.
She volunteered.
Well, she's been volunteered by her aunt. And she's naughty. She's naughty.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I would like to have one more person. Is there someone in that middle age group?
that middle. That's about me, right?
Oh, no.
Oh, my face deceived me.
Oh, really?
Those varicose veins that you saw.
Really. Seriously, I would like to have three people. We have Dwayne, we have Jasmine. Is there a third person?
Charles.
Charles? Okay.
That's a good middle. Yeah, and so one of the things that I think Melvin said, if I'm hearing you right, Melvin, as we are seeking to collect artifacts, to also promote a portal where people might say something, and it might be that we have to follow up with them offline, but at least they could deposit their interest through those media.
Right.
Yeah, I think is what I heard Mel say.
Good, okay. So we'll like that group, and we'll get together, and I'll meet with you also. And we'll get together in the next few weeks or so by Zoom or phone or whatever, and lay out something and try to get something done. The next thing we need to do is to set a date for this program in September or October.
Before you do that, Benny,
Yes, ma'am.
who's gonna do the thing in 2 weeks with Corey?
Oh,
You want to do it?
No.
Oh,
okay,
that was
Maybe we
quick.
should do it.
okay, I'll do it,
Thanks.
okay.
Now I want you to smile.
I may involve other people in this, I have to get with Corey and see how we wanna do this. But, it may be kind of a team effort, because I kinda suggested to him an interview where he's just not interviewing one of us, but maybe two of us. And we can go back and forth and hit the
I'll
different
help you,
points.
Benny.
There you go.
Okay,
I'm gonna volunteer.
okay,
That's a great team.
That's a great.
okay. Okay, now, calendar-wise, we chose the fall of the year because if you type a program like that in the spring or the summer, you got weddings, you got graduations and so forth, and the weather can be bad, and people take vacations in the summer. So I'm thinking late September, early October. Are there any dates that we know of now that may be cause of conflict? And this will be a tentative date we'll set today.
Not Memorial Day weekend.
Well, late September, early October, before the weather gets too bad. So we're looking late September, we're talking
I
the
think,
28th.
that's usually when they've been doing the revival.
Yeah, well,
The
Corey and I did
fall-
discuss that. The
The
revival's
fall
usually
revival is
the
usually
middle 2 weeks in
starting there.
September. So we should probably move to October, you think?
I'm thinking because it was on the edge
Right,
just this past year.
okay.
Is that right, Linda?
So why don't we take a tentative date is October 12th? And we'll work with that and see what comes up. See
And
if
what's
that,
it called?
huh?
What's the official name for it?
Well, the official name right now is the 79th anniversary program. So he had this whole concept of, it's like a marketing concept. Before you do the big thing, you do a smaller one, kind of draw attention to that. And then after that, you have different dates during the year where you have events that lead to the big event. And Corey's pretty good with these marketing concepts.
Okay.
So we don't know what the program is, we just needed a date.
Yeah, we needed a date as soon as possible so we can kind of lock that in. And then we will have to put together a program committee, another smaller group in here to work on that.
Yeah, we'll try to see how many of the brothers can come back, or the brothers in Nashville to sing.
That'd be a great
I mean,
idea.
That's a good one.
Wow.
You know, I mean, basically, that's kind of what you're gonna do.
2025, and they would be the
You know,
highlight.
Bonita had a singing group for a number of them still around.
Yeah, wow.
I saw him over there trying not to look up.
Bonita and Jenkins, Beverly Jenkins, and hey, what about Jeannie right here? Jeannie.
That group.
You were part of a group. Jeannie, you were part of a group.
We were the women's friends.
Really?
Just as part of a choir.
So,
No.
so what I hear you saying is a part of that whole weekend for the 25th anniversary would be a musical reunion of sorts, a musical
Let's
thing.
start there. Yeah. So you can do a Vespers.
Riverside.
Riverside has always had good music, always.
Okay.
I don't care what generation you
Well,
go
Corey would
back.
love that too, this whole music thing, so that'll work great.
It doesn't matter what generation.
7-day soldiers.
Oh yes.
Yes.
It's far enough ahead for them to pull it to
Yes,
potentially
they
pull
would
it
love
up.
that. They would love that.
Jonathan will fly up here.
Oh, yeah.
In the interest of time, let's move forward to the next agenda item.
If he can't make it for this one, he'll be here for the 25. So we gotta let them
Yeah.
know
Okay,
Absolutely.
because he toured. I mean, he's probably touring. I
okay.
mean, he's like
Okay.
big name in South Africa.
Now I want to take a minute to congratulate one of our own who's been recently appointed to the head of the Dudley Foundation, Executive Director. We're so proud of that and for you to be here today, you and your lovely wife. And if you would just give us an update as to what's going on with the Dudley Foundation, and we had made some overtures about having some space in the building and all this stuff, and not that we're gonna expect you to do good things, but you better.
No heat, no pressure.
No pressure, Mike, no pressure, go ahead, Mike.
I'm putting it on the record. That's what I'm excited.
Well, first of all, I'm a charter member of the Riverside Historical Society.
That's
Yeah,
right.
So Riverside Historical Society is always on my mind.
Okay.
But the Dudley Foundation, let me give you the correct long-term, the Charles and Edna Dudley Foundation. And the Charles Dudley Presidential Library, Museum, Archive, and Destination Place for education. The main two missions of the Dudley Foundation, number one is education, helping those who need help, helping organizations to educate who need help, especially underserved, in the South Central Conference.
Yes.
And here's the key word, and beyond, which opens the door for outside of the conference. And then the second one would be community. Anybody who knows Elder Dudley knows that he was a community activist and social justice expert, having pastored and been president in a leadership position of an organization doing the heart of the civil rights movement, and we survived. And there's a whole lot of social justice there to be considered. Right now, for the last month or so, just been getting up to speed, going through all of the documents. We're currently doing our strategic planning, determine what we're going to do moving forward. As you know, part of the whole thing is redoing the Pagoda of Medicine, the Temple of Medicine. Okay, and right now we're working with the contractors to see how long before we'll be able to move in. But it will probably be. That happens to me every time I speak. No. It'll probably be sometime in the distance. So hopefully next week the glass is going up and we can get a environmentally safe inside, so that the rest of the work can happen. So that would have to be an upcoming update. The space for the Riverside Historical Society, which was submitted as an MOA some time ago,
Sometimes we never heard anything back.
is ever present in front of the people who need to make those decisions. So I would say that it's being looked at with deliberate speed. For those of you who are civil rights people, you know what deliberate speed means. It's on the table, it's being talked about. Right now, once they get inside and start working on the inside, we get a whole lot better idea of what space we have. One thing most people may not know, last minute, a lift was added to the construction of the building that carved out and broke up a large section so that people with disabilities, people who may have ailments, wouldn't have to go up and down the steps. So that took up some space. And so right now we're trying to regroup from how that is being situated. Outside of that, I would tell you the one thing that I would say to both entities, and that is the reason why I'm mad. Okay? I'm mad because I realize that in reading about how we came about Riverside Hospital, Sanitarium, how we used to be on Trinity Lane. We moved off Trinity Lane because racists were tearing the place up, so they moved over where it is now, out of the way. I look at the writings of Ellen White and all the other people in the general conferences. They were saying they needed to do the southern work. And we all know what happened to Edson and Vicksburg, and one of the reasons why they kind of pulled back. But the one thing that I'm mad about is that they said, well, let's do it in the South and help the people of color. Well, there are people of color in every state. So if there are people of color in every state, even if they had trouble in the South, why wasn't there growth in the North? So once again, we've kind of been told a story that is not totally true. When I look at all of the other situations associated with who we are, where we are, and what people know about us. If you go to the Seventh-day Adventist encyclopedia, the entry for Riverside Hospital was done January 2023. Why is it just being done a little over a year ago? And if you start searching through, you'll see all the Dudley's name, but there's so many of our other soldiers and warriors that are not listed in there. So why it makes me mad is because someone is not telling our history the right way.
That's right.
That's right.
Riverside Historical Society has an opportunity to set the record straight and get the history written the right way. The Dudley Foundation, and they overlap quite a bit.
Yeah, we do.
The Dudley Foundation has an opportunity to get Black history straight and write it from a perspective of people who are going to tell the truth and not twist it from a political, religious, or friendship situation, so that it's written correctly. And people who were prominent, who made a difference in medicine, in religion, in education, the rest of the world knows who they are. So until I'm not mad, that's my job. My job is to make sure that people understand that there's so much more to Riverside, to South Central, to South Central Conference in the 5 states that the rest of the world knows. And so I hope you all join me as I try to not be mad anymore.
Okay, I want to say one thing to follow up what you said, Michael. I think I sent everybody a copy of what's currently being taught at Andrews. Pastor Fordham was in a class. They were discussing Riverside. And of course he thought about me and sent me the what they were displaying with dates and everything. It is amazing. It is amazing how the drop off was. As far back, I believe as the 30s. You guys have it.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
I
sent
sent
it
it to
over.
all of you, so you would see. But they never really told the story of Riverside, the omission of those years to follow with the missionary work and what Carl did and everybody else had done. You don't see any of that. You don't see anything. I think it's from the 30s all the way down to 83
When the
when the hospital closed. All of those years in between, absolutely nothing. Now they're teaching university level. They're teaching ministers and everybody to be mindful of the work that we as blacks have done and drop out all of those decades in between.
That is why we shouldn't be surprised if people don't have the passion, the fervor.
Right.
They don't know.
They don't know.
Absolutely don't.
Right, they don't know. So we have our work cut out for us. We have a relationship with the Dudley Foundation. I've spoken with Bert a couple of times about what's going on. You know, I'm on the board of the Dudley Foundation now myself. So we plan to work something out, and if we don't get space there, we will find us a place once we get this 501c3 set up and we get some funds coming in, because we need a place to store all the things we have collected, and we like to set up a permanent display, and we like to be able to publish also. And publishing is a good segue as we go right into a series of articles for the Vanderbilt University Press.
We will have one of the chapters in the book.
In a book
on
that's going to be published by the
America.
Vanderbilt University Press. Recently, Annette and Sharon had brunch at the house of Antoine and
And
Candace.
it was so lovely.
So she's going to give
like
us she's going to give us an update on what's going on with that project, and then we'll move right on. Go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, let me tell you, we're doing this together. We have three working together, and I'll tell you who we are and what we do mainly. So I was tasked to get in touch with a lot of ex-workers or family members of Riverside Hospital. I'm blessed to say I'm the only director of nurses that's still alive. So a lot of the stuff, more recently, I've been looking into, and that's been a number of years. So I have made many contacts in-state, out-state, right here at Riverside, and I'm blessed to say I have at least 90% of the testimonies that has been given. The second step is to pass them to Sharon. She looks at them, things that look real out of order. She makes it orderly. And then the third package of that is it goes to Bonita. So there are three of us working as a team. I do the calling, the contact, the collection. Sharon looks at what is sent to me. Then Bonita types it up. The fourth step is it goes to Dr. Antoine, the one who's been given the responsibility to write this book about blacks in the Nashville community, the effectiveness of these different, most of them are medical facilities.
Healthcare issues.
And so, yes, and so in doing that, Dr. Antoine has regrets that he's not here today, but he gave us an update on that. The first off, he says, I would like to begin first by thanking God Almighty. He's the one who sustains us, maintains us, and keeps us from falling. So I like his introduction to the email he sent saying what he has done thus far. And he's gathered a whole lot of information. He's spoken with people at Oakwood that has sent him out to different places to get information resources. His main task coming up very soon is to study the General Conference and their input to Riverside, and yet how they supported us or didn't. Now, the first part of the information, he says, it seems as though they were supported. They were very supportive to Riverside, but he's going to dig deeper. And the good thing about all of this, there's a deadline for this material to be in, and he says he is above schedule. So we are able to get him the information he needs as well to put into this book. And I can share with you, as you read these testimonies, I cried with a lot of them. And it's just so real to them, talking about the service that they received at Riverside, talking about being hired as a 16-year-old there, and then they can go there to school, LPN, and then have a job. Talking about the fact that anywhere in the city, an LPN could say, I just finished Riverside. They would hire them on the spot without doing any type of check. Just the type of name that Riverside had in preparing nurses to work anywhere. Vanderbilt offered to hire anyone right away out of school.
Yeah.
So you can see he's benefiting from the testimonials. We have some videos I call Benny about. So Paula, you did some years ago, right? I probably would need to get yours and whoever else. I do know William Jenkins just did Joe McCoy last year.
Right.
Because there are people who prefer not to write, but just talk.
Right.
And Joe is one. I know Shirley, I don't know where her videos are, but
Shirley
we need to be
Yeah, we have
looking
those,
at the ones she did and decide.
Yeah, we have all of those. I got those to Cedric, and he's putting those together for us to review. Paul and I will be reviewing those, and then we'll decide. how
Okay,
we're gonna use
those are the ones that I will need so I
Okay.
can give to Dr. Antoine before we meet again.
Okay.
For him to work through, be said definitely they could be helpful.
Well, thank you very much. We're so glad for that, for the work you guys are doing. For Sharon, she's a great editor. For Benita, who's like an ex officio part of our group. She's always been working with us since we started.
Yeah,
Because it
but
takes a
I
team.
just think we need to let everybody know what everybody's doing.
Right.
We all share a part with
Right.
this.
And a few weeks ago, I got a call from these young people saying they had found a trove of pictures and other documents that they want to share with us. And now we're going to turn the floor over to them, to David and to Andrea. Jackson said he couldn't be here. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
As you guys get set up, would be a good time now to take like a 5-minute break. People need to go to the bathroom or.
By Pastor Marshall's office. And there was an old computer that was given to Jasmine, and thankfully, as she was about to set up her own stuff, she came across probably a couple thousand photos.
Over 6,700 photos.
Over 6,700. So she tells David, thankfully, we get the photos, and so even though the Harvest Festival, we didn't get a lot of pictures, I think this made up for it. Like 4 times over.
Mhm.
So there are different categories. David spent a lot of time going through them and trying to organize them. They're all not organized, but they're broken up into like older members. When the old church burned down, when our new church was being constructed.
Yeah.
We have pictures of some former pastors, the blue robe. Hope
Wow.
was talking about, we have that picture.
Mhm.
We have pictures of hospital workers. We have pictures of, I believe, Dr. Den, and then some members we have now. So we'll try to go through the categories. And maybe at a later time, y'all might we can talk about naming people and pictures we might want to print.
Right.
If we do want to
Put on
display, but
yeah.
we'll go through.
Yeah, there's a lot. So we're not gonna get anywhere close to seeing
Yeah.
all of the photos. But we have some like highlighted that we want to try to get through. But yeah, we have like a handful of photos from like different services, and then a bunch of different events throughout Riverside. The newest stuff we have is from 2008, so it's from 2008 to
Back.
Yeah.
until
Got it.
Wow.
So let's look at some of the events. This is a church fair from 07, I believe. Let's see if we can make it a little bigger.
I think that is my dad and Andrew Marshall playing
Oh,
pool
really?
hall.
Oh, okay.
And if I can identify the people, I'll tell you guys. But if I can't, I'll
That is your
definitely-
father.
That is your
Yeah.
father.
the thick mustache.
And Andrew too.
Yeah.
That's in the front parking lot? What?
That's on the side. Like the
The side.
multi-purpose room would be right here.
Okay, gotcha.
I remember that.
Right, okay.
Sorry.
Mhm.
Trying to make it.
Oh, I understand. It's big. It's big.
Mhm.
Am I blocking you?
No, we
So we're starting most of those and going back.
Oh, there's Andrew.
With their hearts.
I'm gonna try to go fast because
Is
there's
that
a
many
lot of
pictures?
photos.
I'm sorry.
But if y'all keep moving it forward in every picture,
Hey, who was that?
Betty.
It's an ugly rascal.
Who's that up there? What's that, Betty?
That's what I thought. Y'all asking too many questions.
That's the mortgage burning weekend. The weekend we
It's so
burned the
many.
mortgage.
Is that what that was?
Yeah,
Okay.
2007.
that's when we had the party out in the backyard, yeah.
Yeah, I was
Is that
working.
Candace?
Is that Ken?
I don't know.
Oh, no.
Kind of looks like her.
That's sitting up there.
Also, I'll be able to send out a link to the
Yeah.
entire.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a big
It's a big
file.
You can see the thing.
And I'm not gonna go through all the images in each folder, but we'll
Yes,
just.
that's really nice.
It is.
Yeah.
Who is that?
Is that
Mark. Mark.
There was a point where Riverside,
There's your
I
baby.
kid you not, Riverside was doing the electric slide.
I know it's something happening. I know.
Riverside was.
That's
part of it. Old people. Well, not that, but I was a DJ.
I might skip some folders.
No, I get it. They might want the older ones too.
Yeah, I'm gonna save those.
I don't know, but I know they did it. That's probably what it is.
Names
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
That's it. Patrol.
It's a church slide.
There you go.
We'll turn those names in.
That's your nephew up there.
Turn us in.
Yeah, that's
We're
cool.
gonna turn y'all in.
Wow.
They dumped past
They dumped the pastor.
He was young.
Are some photos from the actual mortgage.
Look at Earl. Where did
I
Hope
think that was
go?
the evening program right here.
Hey, Hope, here's your husband.
There's been.
that's
been in the
Big, the three of
Right
them.
now.
Oh,
They
that's time.
up there walking and
Oh, I
staffing.
remember that when
Yeah.
Dwayne Hamilton.
Yeah.
Dwayne Harris.
Good Harris, yeah.
That was hilarious.
That was funny.
You're the mom.
That was a social to welcome, what was that, Pastor Fordham?
Look at Elder
Wow.
Who is that? Is that,
That looked like Ben.
no, is he the, it could be Farmer. Is that Darren?
Daryl.
No, look like that.
Oh,
Earl had on his little
You get close and see.
dress coat.
oh, that's Eddie Pelote.
That's who it is.
There's Earl.
Oh, that was the tables.
Maria.
Slusher.
Mark.
Look at the
There.
choir.
Look at choir.
Choir.
You know, that was never a picture of me in there. Never never made it.
Who's that up there?
Pastor
Is that Earl?
Hutchins. Pastor Hutchins.
Hutchins. Oh, okay,
Hurst
Sam.
Hutchins, wow.
Sam.
Wow.
He was very proud.
Those packed ones.
Very
Okay.
Pastor Stafford.
Stafford.
Who's that?
Oh, that's Pat. Pat.
Wait, hold on.
Margie and
Huh?
Hey, Sharon, was that your dad?
Come by too fast.
The two slides back.
no. Rosie Pitt.
Where's
Rosie.
Pastor?
Yeah,
Sister Rosie,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
when she cut her hair.
Yeah,
That's Margie Richardson.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Oh, there.
Brothers.
See, who
Where?
we need to
Oh,
go find?
Brothers.
The dress code. Yeah, he's doing
Oh, look at
They
Ethan
wouldn't let me
Reed.
in.
At Easton Reed.
Oh, yeah.
Ruggles.
What?
The white
What?
dude
No,
in
she
his
said,
brother.
who's the, she didn't know who the white man was.
He was a fill-in.
A lot of people, I don't know.
That's back when I had hair.
We
Yeah,
have
the way you
some
still got hair.
photos of the.
Yes, I do.
What? Oh, that's the bird.
Oh,
wow. That's the what?
That's the burn down.
Church.
When the church burned.
And the
Now that, those are
That's the dormitory there.
Yeah.
Juilliard.
But
That's the Juilliard?
Yeah, right behind the hotel.
Hey, we need some of these images, you know. We need,
I'll give
He
you
says
my
he's gonna send us
collection.
all the links.
yeah, because I'll have to have some printed for hard copy for our display. To our timeline.
Oh, that's the night of the fire.
When they
Nashville
all
time, yeah,
were quite a
that's the
concern.
night of the fire.
You remember when we looked and said,
What year was that?
2000?
5?
I believe 2006.
6. Oh, you born? You born on 2?
After?
There's a bunch of assorted old.
What does that say?
This is This is a collection of Washington Butler.
He's right here.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
There's Wash. There's Wash.
He worked for, who did he work for?
Now, who's the other guy? Who's the other guy?
He's wearing
Somebody
it.
from the state.
Oh, okay, so that's okay.
Somebody from the
He
state.
worked for.
Oh, when he was running from the governor?
Yeah.
Oh my word.
74.
Look at him.
He had a vision for Riverside.
Look at that. Look at
Oh, they would love that.
Man.
Land, Lazuli.
That's Marie.
Yeah. No, where's Marie? She's not there.
Was there somebody before her?
That's not Marie.
Do we have any?
Marie?
I don't see Maria.
We'll ask her to verify.
No.
Back up there. Former Aeolian nominated.
Not aioli.
Elected to Oak Ridge City Council.
Oh, he. Oh,
Let me just stop you right here. If you let them go through this at this pace,
We'll never get
we'll
through.
be here for the next 2 hours.
6
So
hours.
we'd ask them to back up. No backing up.
I'm
So,
skipping
no. What I'm gonna make a suggestion here. We have, I think, one more item on the agenda, Paul's presentation.
Okay.
Do you want to hold that to the next meeting? You want us to go through, you want to allow them to go through this? We can make a decision and we. how we
Or you
gonna
go
do
in front and then we stay and watch a video show out.
With the pleasure of the people.
Do your thing, Claudia. Do your thing.
He's been diplomatic.
Paula, you do yours, and gentlemen, do not leave.
Okay, I'll be here.
Okay, because we'll watch it after, but that will allow any
Yeah, because
safe
some
who
people
needs to
have
leave.
own schedules that we can mess with, so, yeah. But thank you so far. It's been wonderful. Everybody, we could have just had a whole meeting of that.
Yeah, we should allow ourselves, we need to allow ourselves to have that time. Sharon and Jeannie.
That was the original meeting, we got trained by Pastor, what's his name?
Norman.
Norman, yeah.
Yeah, so,
2017.
okay, my question was, we all know who's in this photograph, and we've already identified everybody, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
It's about 7 years old. So my intent for this presentation was to take a closer look into the man who has been identified as the first pastor for Riverside Chapel. But because of the lateness of the hour and because Benny gave me a time limit and everything, we'll get to about the first third of his life, and then I'll try to wrap it up from there, okay? So, Charles M. Kinney. Every time I've read or spoken his name, every time I saw a picture of him, I wondered what his life might have been like. To be black, to be a member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in the United States in the 1800s, into the turn of the century, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, and to experience the changes, to actually be a catalyst for the changes within our church, and then to give more than 70 years of ministry to his people, declaring the everlasting gospel. So about 10 years ago, the General Conference posted this as part of its On This Day in History. A couple of things of note as you look at that. First is his last name. It's spelled here with an E. It's often spelled that way in denominational sources, but Pastor Kinney himself always spelled it Kinny without the E in his correspondence and other documents written in his own hand. And then second, we see the terms black and African American, and you know those weren't used during his lifetime and will be referred to as colored and Negro throughout the presentation. So whenever I see this photo of Pastor Kinney, I usually think of this man. Frederick Douglass was 37 years Pastor Kinney's senior, but they both lived during slavery, the Civil War, and the Emancipation, and I would say both of them were evangelists. Then there's the beard, and there's the white hair, which always brings to my mind this man.
This man.
All right. This, of course, is the namesake of Charles E. Dudley Sr., who served a record 31 years as president of the South Central Conference.
Mercy.
And during the second half of the 20th century, much like Pastor Kinney, Elder Dudley was a leading advocate for racial justice and structural change within the Adventist Church. And it's been said that Chuck, like his dad, has an uncanny way of making people think. When Chuck worked in Muslim countries overseas, he was well respected and loved by his Arabic associates, who often referred to him as an imam with great knowledge. While working on the project, I also discovered a connection between Frederick Douglass and the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and some of you may already know this. I didn't know. An abolitionist, as were many of the early Adventist leaders, including Ellen White, Frederick Douglass heard William Miller preach, and he believed in the second coming of Christ. He witnessed the falling of the stars, November 13, 1833, and in his description of the event, he wrote in part, quote, "It was about daybreak when I saw this sublime scene. I was looking away to heaven, for the rest denied me here on earth." Unquote.
You know his daughter was a baptized member of the
You're coming to that on the next slide.
Yes, so be quiet.
A fearless spokesman for his people, Douglass never formally joined the Seventh-day Adventist Church. However, his daughter, Rosetta Douglass Sprague, did become a member. Rosetta lived in Tacoma Park and was apparently influenced by her father's belief in the Advent. She was his oldest child and personal assistant for decades. Rosetta joined the first SDA church in Washington, D.C. around 1892, and she remained a member there until her death in 1906.
Whoa. Y'all didn't know that, did you?
In his retirement from electrical engineering, Chuck, I was told, is a technical advisor in the wiring of the renovated Pagoda of Medicine that we've talked a little bit about already, so I won't go into that. But during the Millerite movement, there were several prominent colored preachers, among them John W. Lewis of Providence, Rhode Island, and Charles Bowles in Vermont. Bowles was the, quote, standard Millerite exposition of prophecy. And that's according to historian Leroy E. Froome. The intense, moving subjects preached by Miller were being followed with remarkable acceptance among the colored people, and prophetic guidance was also given through the visions and dreams of William E. Foy. It was during the mid-1800s when Charles Marshall Kinney was born, one of 3 children born to Andrew and Lucy Ann Kinney, born April 1st, 1855. Charles he had an older brother, Philip, and a younger sister, Ida. The family lived in Richmond, Virginia, the state being a slave state. Currently, there's no evidence to indicate whether Charles was enslaved or freed, but by 1870, several years after the Emancipation Proclamation, the family had gone west in search of a better life and settled in Reno, Nevada. Charles earned his living in Reno as a barber, a skill he learned from his father. In the summer of 1878, Charles attended a series of evangelistic lectures presented by Adventist pioneer J.N. Lockborough. Ellen White visited the tent effort and spoke in Reno on the love of God. 23 years of age, Kinney accepted the 3 angels' messages of Revelation 14 and subsequently became one of 7 charter members and the only black member of the Reno Seventh-day Adventist Church. He was elected as the church clerk, and by 1882, Kinney had become the state secretary of the Nevada Tract and Missionary Society, a position of high responsibility in an era when tract societies were the primary agencies for organizing members for personal evangelism and outreach. I don't know if you can see his name over there under that subheading, Charles M. Kinney, Reno, Nevada. Sponsored by the Reno Church and the California Conference, Kinney began to study for the ministry at Hillsburg College in Northern California. Upon finishing his studies in 1885, Kinney accepted an assignment to Canvas, Kansas, which was a popular destination for black migrants from the South after the Civil War, and he began to work in Topeka. Kinney was an Adventist minister with 3 strikes against him: minority race, minority religion, and minority marital status for his age, single at the age of 30. Apprising Adventist Review readers of his progress, he penned modest pieces detailing modest successes. During this time, General Conference Secretary Dan T. Jones wrote to Kinney that, quote, your success or failure will largely shape the policy of the General Conference in planning for the work among the colored people in the future.
Wow.
Close quote.
That was pressure.
Yeah, no pressure.
Right. Kinney focused more on personal evangelism than public evangelism, going from house to house, giving Bible studies, selling, loaning, and giving away Adventist literature. As a literature evangelist, though, he did conduct Bible studies and held several evangelistic crusades. In 1889, he went to St. Louis, Missouri.
Yay!
And in the spring of that year, he accepted a call to Louisville, Kentucky to develop the colored work there. In 1890, he organized the second Black Adventist congregation in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and we know that the first one was in Edgefield Junction, Tennessee, 1883. In 1892, he founded the fourth Black congregation in New Orleans, Louisiana, and 2 years later, the fifth congregation in Nashville.
He was everywhere,
Yes.
Oh, man, that guy was all over the place.
spread out.
It was in St. Louis where Kinney apparently first encountered serious conflict over racial prejudice within the church, when several new believers from the black community tried to join the predominantly white church. In a letter to Kenny, Dan Jones acknowledged the reality of, quote, race prejudice in the church, close quote, while he also encouraged Kenny to persist nonetheless. But it was during the ministry in Louisville that this 34-year-old preacher was compelled to grapple with the color line as never before. Attending the late September 1889 camp meeting in Nashville, which drew Adventist workers from throughout the South, Kenny was to become the first person of color in the Adventist church to be ordained to the gospel ministry.
Wow.
Texas Conference President
Excuse
Robert...
me, did you say 89?
1889. Texas Conference President Robert Kilgore convened a council following the camp meeting, and Kenny was confronted by efforts to segregate him and his members at his ordination service. The council was held during a time when white supremacism was consolidating control over the southern states. Although Kenny did not believe in segregation, he was willing to work within its narrow confines for the ultimate good of the church. At the district workers' meeting held on October 2nd, Kenny addressed the concept of black self-determination within the church structure. This full dialogue here between Kenny and Kilgore was documented in the minutes. I extracted a few comments that I think demonstrate Pastor Kenny's diplomacy and his insightful evaluation of race, while also showing his love for his people and for God. But because of the time limit, I won't be able
Just
Say,
read.
say.
to go back to the first one.
Yeah,
Yeah, baby, yeah, baby.
It is probable that my ideas may be a little different from what has been expressed by some, but they are mere suggestions, and I would be extremely glad if there is no necessity to carry them out. In the first place, a separation of the people from the white people is a great sacrifice upon our part, to miss the information that these general meetings would give them. And another thing, it seems to me that a separation in the general meetings would have a tendency to destroy the unity of the third angel's message. Now then, this question to me is one of great embarrassment and humiliation, and not only for me, but to my people also.
Speak.
Have mercy.
Okay, I might state first that the third angel's message has the power in it to eliminate or remove this race prejudice upon the part of those who get hold of the truth. Where two races cannot meet together without distinction in the church, it is better to separate. I would say in this connection that in my judgment, a separate meeting for the people be held in connection with the general meetings, or a clear-cut distinction by having them occupy the back seats, etc., would not meet with as much favor from my people as would a total separation.
Wow.
Nobody let us have our own.
And then,
Wow.
until there is enough to form a conference of people, let the black churches, companies, or individuals pay their tithes and other contributions to the regular state officers, that when black conferences are formed, they bear the same relation to the general conference that the white conference
He was
do.
talking about black conferences way back in 1889.
Well, 55, let's see, about 55 years prior to them actually being formed.
Wow.
That's his foresight.
It was 89 that he became a pastor.
He was ordained in 78.
89 that,
Hold on, let's go on.
okay.
Okay. All right,
Sorry.
2 years
We're trying to
later,
calculate.
in 1891, Kenny went to Battle Creek as a delegate to the General Conference session. Ellen White, who attended the same meeting, supported Elder Kenny's call for the work among blacks by making her own historic appeal, which was titled, Our Duty to the Colored People. Referencing the confrontation that occurred at the church in St. Louis, she said, the spirit and words of some in regard to members of the church were an offense to God. Among those in St. Louis who believe the truth, there are colored people who are true and faithful, precious in the sight of the God of heaven, and they should have just as much respect as any of God's children.
Speak up.
Kenny traveled widely, as you've also already noted. He canvassed intermittently in Nebraska, Missouri, Texas, Tennessee, and Alabama. By 1894, there were approximately 50 colored Seventh-day Adventists in this country. Now, it was around that same time that James Edson White published the first edition of the Gospel Herald, which was a forerunner to the Message magazine. But it wasn't until 1945, when black conferences were formed, when Lewis B. Reynolds became the first black editor for Message. So that's all I put together because of the time. There's lots more that I got, but you know,
Wonderful.
we can do it another time. They can make a video out of the PowerPoint and we can put it on our website.
Yes, that would be educational.
I think like a YouTube kind of thing would just be fabulous.
Now, I wanted, can I just take a second?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I
Take
just
it
wanted
down,
to point out a few of the major highlights with Elder Kenny during the 1900s. He did change his marital status. He continued his ministry throughout the South. He and his wife, Viola, resided in Nashville and later at the Riverside Hospital and Sanitarium.
He died there.
And he was a charter member of the Riverside Chapel of Seventh-day Adventist Church after his transfer to the South Central Conference.
Grace McDonald.
Yeah. Look at that.
Paula, where'd you find that?
Now, she is the one that was trained by Miss Drouillard.
Grace.
Grace. And that is Lois
Bernard's mother.
parent.
Yeah. And Lois just passed
Her
away.
father is there. Herbert McDonald on there. He,
Now, these are
Right
charter
inside.
members of Riverside.
yes.
Wow.
1945.
And a lot of you know
19
Dr.
what?
1945, when we went to,
When they left Meharry.
when they left Kentucky 10 and went to South Central.
Wow.
I want y'all to take a note of that.
Can you send me a copy
you
of this
see-
whole thing? I mean,
Paula.
I would love to have that slide, but I like the whole slide.
sure.
And you need to share this with Benita, because she would love to see that.
And Ruth Frazier, that's Miss Stafford at Oakwood.
That's who?
Okay? Stafford. You remember Miss Stafford?
Oh, no, ma'am, I
from
didn't go
Oakwood?
there, sweetheart.
I didn't go to Oakwood either, but
Kind of
she's
missed
kind
that
of,
whole
no,
I know a granddaughter.
no.
I'm open to Jesus.
A question.
Bernie, who was that, Bernie Sue?
I'm open to Jesus.
Reynolds? Oh, yeah, that's
Elder Reynolds.
Elder Reynolds' wife.
Yeah, yeah.
Who is that underneath? Make it larger.
Edna
Please.
Schumer.
Sherney.
Oh.
Oh, look at that. This is a-
You can sit around as long as you like. Dwayne.
I don't remember this video.
Smile heads. Father, history. History is not just a dry recitation of dates and figures and people. In the broadest sense, history is the story of your incomparable, indescribable love for the human family. Help us to remember that the history that we speak of, that the history that we document, is but a part and parcel of a larger history, your story of love. Father, let your history, let our history be subsumed in yours, so that it is not just a dry recitation of dates and figures and people. Let our endeavors, let our history be a history of love that will draw people to you. For we pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Let me just read this again from Ellen White. We have nothing to fear